And when the saints have all sat down, and when the saints have all sat down, I hope you know in your month what number your birthday comes out to be. So as I said before, if it turns out that you don't have enough room, that like you had to work out there, you did good. You can handle it yourself. Good. Turning to the right, we'll breathe in. Turning to the left, we'll breathe out. Turning to the right, we breathe in and pull energy from the people from the side where from the right. And then when we breathe out, we'll send energy down the left with the out breath. Ready? All right. One more. I don't know the words too well, but it's okay, you can let go of hands, you got to let go of hands. But I'm sure some of you know the words the right way. It's a gift to be simple. It's a gift to be simple. It's a gift to be free. It's a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we come down to the place just right, it will be in the valley of love and the light. When through simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be afraid. To turn and turn, it will be our delight, till by turning and turning we come round right. So if I were a rich man, what I would like to do is arrange the seats in Congress the same way. Could you imagine, what was so wonderful as we were sitting here and breathing together was pretty clear that, I got to remember to do that we were sharing energy together, and I'm sure that the differences that are emphasized by having an aisle in between, and this one sits on this side of the aisle, and this one sits on the other side of the aisle, is not likely going to overcome things. And I would like to have this song. It's a gift to be simple, to be the song with which a day in Congress begins, Right? So, because you see what's happening, and I think that element of personality theory and discernment, sharpening the discernment, has something to do with a person understanding who is the person who is before you, and what are the things with which that person came into the world, And to know that, to go ahead and to say to, I don't know, to a Gemini, make up your mind. Which one of the minds should I make up, Right? We recognize that they need another approach, let's say, than the Taurus does, right? So I'd like us to spend some time with this today. And I'd like each group to find out what their sign is. Now that you're sitting according to the months, have the signs haven't yet been determined. No. And then you will, again, make some more chaos by moving the chairs together in such a way that you will have a circle of people in your sun sign. And I'd like you to raise a question to discuss among yourself. What kind of a question should be raised by your group to be brought up here, and the person who will be your delegate will come and sit with me, and we'll have a conversation about the question that was brought up. And there is always, of course, the meta process of understanding why the questions differ this way, and so on and so forth. And I do hope that I will have in my mind an awareness of the qualities of that sign, and I may need an astrologer to help me a little bit with that too, okay? But that would be also helpful in responding, okay? So let's proceed with that and get the signs together. It's almost that one could watch the way in which they behave this way. But I need to know a little bit more about the characteristics. So the first group is going to be the Aries group.
Aries. Well,
What would you tell me about Aries, the character of Aries in general?
well, Aries is if you just think of the seasons, you'll remember it easily. Aries is the fire, the masculine, the fire of spring, the spring plants pushing forth, the go juice. You know.
Good.
Yeah.
And then we would go to...
And every sign is the cure for every previous sign. So what do you need after you have go juice?
Yeah.
You need fixity. You need somebody to do the work that you've thought up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have the earth sign, Taurus, right? The integration, the grounding. Of course, Taurus can be so steadfast and steady and stable that it rules money and just very grounded. It does the work.
Is just hits me. You know, that each sign, the following sign, is the cure for that.
Well, and as you start a sign, it's so wonderful because it's the cure for the previous sign. But as you move through the sign, it gets too heavy and there's too much of it. So then you need the cure, and it happens each, and you can feel it as we go through the Zodiac every year.
That's wonderful. See, in this way, the element of liturgy that has been killed by and large, when I think Roman Catholics used to have those seasons and you could walk in and see by the color of the cloth on the altar, you know,
right.
what was happening.
Yes.
So Taurus comes afterwards with grounding.
But Taurus gets too stodgy and too still and stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
So you need Gemini. That's when you need Gemini.
Right.
Right after Taurus to bring in lots of new thoughts. So now you've come from the fire through the earth, and then you're in the air. And you've got more room to change things and change it all up. And it's
good. I see this on our ritual calendar. Go on.
And it's in the spring still.
Yeah.
There's still that spring quality to it. And then at the end of Gemini,
Cancer.
Right? The water. And the water is this mother's cure to all that frittering in the air and chatter. It's the embracing.
Yeah, somebody's got to cook dinner here. Come on.
Yes. Somebody needs to hold the home and give us the space for all of this and remind us to be in the flow, and that however we do it, it's fine. It's just right. but that could be too much water. So you need the fire again, the fire of the individuation.
So Leo comes in here.
Leo comes in, the me. The me, the shining sun, individuating and bringing creativity. So creative. Leo is so tender and heartful. It's like the heart of the zodiac. It's very big and it likes to be in the center.
Yeah.
You know? And then, but easily wounded. You have to be so careful of any fire sign because all the other elements can put them out. So they're so sparky, but you have to be gentle with them. And Leos really display that. It's so easy to hurt that me quality.
How could it be with my generosity that I shouldn't be understood right? I'm a Leo, so yeah.
So you know.
Yeah. And then comes Virgo.
Virgo. Bringing in the discernment. So also, as we move around the zodiac, Virgo is the last sign in the first half. So there is a quality of cleaning up what's happened in the first half and looking at the details and caring for this earthiness in a way of exactness and clarity and how do we do our work and making sure we've taken care of the body and the health and what are we eating and what's our dharma and those kinds of things are the Virgo qualities.
I have a question, a suggestion to you, but I want to continue in a moment. We were in Australia, and the reason why I wanted to go is because I had the sense that I had to experience the southern hemisphere in this way. So Pesach is in the spring, and Sukkot is in the fall. So here it turned out to be Sukkot when we were there, and it was spring. So I asked them to also bring into the sukkah, which they built, some matzahs and some green vegetables that were coming up. And we have to beat the willow branches, but the willow branches were all in bloom at that time, because usually in the fall, that's how it is. So I started to look around, talk to Christians, talk to others. Nobody is willing to let go of the northern hemisphere chauvinism there. So I try to at least get the people in the renewal Jewish community to be more aware that some signs of the seasons have to be brought into the celebration or else it isn't right. Then I
So
looked
whatever the season is, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's a different season.
That's right. So I Googled up Wicca, and I wrote them a note and asked, how do you people do it here? And they have turned it around. They have. They don't go. They go the opposites of the northern hemisphere.
They roll it the other direction.
Yeah, and that was very, very wonderful to hear from them. That they do that. The Maoris didn't have a problem to begin with because they didn't get the northern stuff. But I'm wondering, whether astrology would look different from there.
Well, the location is important in determining your chart. So where you're born on the earth definitely affects what sign you're in and how your aspects lay out on your chart. But in the way, Western astrology is distorted. First of all, most of the time we use astrology that is not actually where the stars are. We're 20 degrees off.
Because of the centuries that have passed.
Right, so you can do Vedic astrology, and that's actually where the stars are. But interestingly, both work. How it is.
Yeah.
Because
it
all works.
It's trying to tap something else anyway. So It gives us coordinates by which we can tap. That's the word.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had managed to get around to
Virgo.
we are now
and
at
the
Libra.
other thing in Virgo
Yeah.
that's important is that it is the embodiment of the sacred feminine, and Virgo is the virgin.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a important piece there. And Libra then is about relationship. It's depicted by the scales. It's the air sign, but it's a the man's law is governed here in Libra, and so it's really about weighing the decisions and weighing your life. And
Consequences are important here
Yes.
because winter is coming. See, that's the reason why I asked these questions.
Yes.
How would it be the other way around?
Well, yeah, and
But
in Leo you see the sun is so on the
Rich,
earth,
yeah.
and but in the fall you see the gold come down into the earth. So yeah, all of those images are in our Western astrology. Absolutely.
and because they're from the north, right?
From the north.
And so I want to give you a blessing that you should find a good reason to have a good journey.
I have a good reason.
Yeah.
It's compelling. I'm
All right?
working on it.
Yeah, and that you should get down there into a very quiet place without any light pollution. Just lie on the ground, look at the southern cross, and the different constellations and so on and so forth. Say Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So Libra, and then Scorpio. So Scorpio is really about the journey to the, Persephone's descent. It's the journey to the darkness and the unveiling of the deep parts of our soul. It's the opposite of Taurus, so it carries some of the similar aspects, but the complementary. So it's a water sign, very fluid, but very, very deep. And often you can see Scorpios they're very beautiful, but they swim around on the top for a long time because it's so scary to go down. And they know that their journey is to die.
Mm-hmm.
So Scorpio has a difficult task, and it's always death.
Mm-hmm. So by this time we are in
October and November.
Yeah.
And then you have a lighter, Scorpio, the Halloween and All Hallows Eve, and the soul time,
otherworldly.
the dark, otherworldly. And then you have Sagittarius, that bounty time, where it really is this bounty time. It's bounty of the mind.
That's the Christmas presents and stuff like that?
It's before Christmas.
Uh-huh.
It's because Christmas you start, December really is the time of darkness, but Christmas really is much more about Sagittarius. It's a funny thing because Christmas falls in the other sign, but
I understand the quality. That's what you were saying about the removal of things.
Yeah. So Sagittarius is the traveler and the teacher. You have a lot of Sagittarian quality to you. Mm-hmm. The sage, the traveler, the wise man, but it's the highest quality of the mind. Knowledge,
There's
libraries.
also a certain kind of hermit-like thing. It's not very social.
It's not really. It's the teacher. It's more in the individual higher place. And then Capricorn is a different kind of descent than Scorpio, but it's the journey of the monk, really. It's, and really honoring it. Capricorn starts with the winter solstice. So that's, that's where the key lies, in that silence.
So, but it also has already something about going up again, yes?
Yes, the mountain goat. It's the climber. It's the exaltation of the earth element and
The heights.
the heights of our connection to ourself, to our awareness, to what is right. This is where God's law is ruled.
Hold on for a second. Can we have the sound again?
Dana? Look for sounds.
Ready. Now, before you do anything else, before you do anything else, so before you do anything else, if you could remember the energy that was in the constellation of your group, you guys in the center holding hands, putting your heads together. What sign are you? Wonderful. So would you look at your own interaction before we then go back to deal with the question that you raised and find out in which way has your interaction with each other in that group been paradigmatic of the sign in which you are, okay? Okay, continue.
Okay, Capricorn, so then we're in Aquarius. Aquarius is such a sign of transformation. You've come through God's law, and how do you fix that heaviness that doesn't allow anything now? Everything is so
Every
restrictive.
every mysticism that fights against the exoteric thing comes in Aquarius.
Aquarius blows it all away and says it's the Lila, it's the illallah. It's just you can't conceive of it. Start it all over.
Right.
It's more
And
than
be
you could
open
imagine.
to that.
Be open to that.
Yeah.
It's that spark of the new awareness, the new world. The Aquarian age.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we move into Pisces.
Now Pisces. Pisces is the big ocean. And it's at the end of all the signs. Pisces is like right when you're ready to go on a trip and you look back at the house and you say, oh, what did I forget? And Pisces, so when you meet Pisces, they can be, oh, you're Pisces? Because they can be any sign. They could be anything. Every fish is in the ocean.
This is so wonderful. It fits so much with if you will, the Jewish mythology about the months, because as you're describing this...
Yeah, you do have a movie about that. I saw it. I thought the same thing.
Yes.
It fits perfectly.
It's not quite, but it's good. We go around the year the same way in order to get the feeling. And now that you have the question ready, you go and move your chairs back into the circle so that we can see everyone. Remember when we were talking yesterday about how important it is to clear the deck. If you check out where you are right now, you're pretty agitated. You enjoyed the moving around, the conversation. You're very much on the surface. So let's sit a little quiet, just a minute or two, and get away from the surface and get centered again, and then we'll have the first person come up. Amen. You guys give very good silence. You know, it was nice and rich, good silence. So we are now in the month of Aries. So would the Aries person please come here? And take the mic and tell what's,
The question that we got to is, how do we discern what is ours to do, and how do we balance approaching it with our will or allowing grace?
So what, in order, when you make up a good question, there is also some thought that goes into the people have about why this is a question and why they formulated it that way and so on. What came up in your group about that?
Well, we felt as Aries that we are able to exert will and, I guess, create force, take up space. And we need to know kind of when to do that and how to balance that with allowing grace. So we don't want to not do something that needs to be doing, but we don't want to be doing something that would be better to...
To leave to grace, right?
Yes.
And so we will approach this answer with the seriousness and say, therefore, this is it's really so wonderful. And the head pardon? All right, I'll take it this away, yes. We'll just hand it to each other. Yesterday, when we were talking about the backstroke, that dealt with that thing. It says, I can't give up my task, my goal, my deployment. I have to work at that. That's my job. And at the same time, it is open for something else. As you were talking, I got to the sense of, I don't know if this is a good connection or not, but there is a point when someone who is busy saving a whole world becomes the Lamb of God. I think somehow there lies something very strong in the area of what Aries needs and is about. Say some more about what's happening, because you nodded right. So what did you nod to?
Just expanding my awareness that Aries isn't just an adult ram, that it started out as a lamb, and that part has always got to be inside there someplace. But that may have been part of the letting grace. If you're a little lamb, then you don't have as much will to exert, and you let grace.
At the same time, if I take the date of Good Friday seriously, then there is a certain kind of stubbornness in there. Until you can say it is finished, you don't give up. When you hear the last words of Christ on the cross, the last one was, it is finished. And that's an important part for Aries also to have, to know that I have gone as far as I can go with my thing, and I have an idea when I no longer need to push, it is finished for me. My job is done, this. Let's sit with that a little bit, because both with the question and see how this reflects on us, okay? Before we go on, I'd like you to make a couple of appointments with yourself. You may have an idea when in the next few months something will come up in which this awareness that you have touched now will come to good use. So think about what's ahead and make an appointment with yourself to be able to recall fully where we are now. I wish I had a song for every group, like a poor little lamb with gone. Ba, ba, ba. Thank you. All right, we're going to get somebody from Taurus, right.
We were wondering if you could shed some illumination for us on the delicious, verdant, fertile time of May of Taurus, counterpointed with the darkness that may be the wintry type months or the dark night of the soul. How to integrate those to keep the alive, fresh, growing aspects of Taurus awake while we're going through these darker periods in our lives.
So some of the things that you discussed while you were thinking about that brought you to formulate this question. So let's hear a little bit more about it, okay?
Okay. We were acknowledging the qualities of the moist earth, the verdant, the delicious, the fragrant, the blooming, the flowers, and we were just feeling so excited and enlivened by all that. And then saying, yes, but what happens when we forget that and we're in the dark places and we don't remember, or the lake is frozen and the sky is heavy and dark? How do we keep that remembrance of the fragrance of spring and the delight of spring? And so we were wrestling with that a bit, and we all were very aligned on what do we know to do to keep remembering that. And so we wanted to hear your reflections on that.
If I had a choice of employees who are going to follow orders and do the job that's been given, I would, in this way, want to go and get some Taurians for that. Not in the research and development, mind you, but in the execution of things, and that would be sort of very important. There was a religion. It's no longer here, but came about the time of when Christianity arose. You see, we see the history of that time as if it was only sort of Greeks, Romans, Jews, and Christians. And we don't have an idea of how many other things were going on, burgeoning, were bubbling. It was a time, at that time, if we were to use the astrological ages, it would be to say between Aries and Pisces, just at that point, that there were a lot of Gnostic groups, and they find every once in a while they find another one of those Gospels that are not in the Gospels. The Gospel of Judas was found, and you had the other hidden Gospels that were found that Elaine Pagels and others have translated and made available. But there was another religion, and it was called Mithraism. And in Mithraism, there was a sense of that the salvation doesn't come to the people unless they're washed by the blood of the bull, not the lamb, the blood of the bull. And there was this, in the sanctuaries, there was this grate, and it was over a space in which people had gathered to, who had prepared themselves. And then someone would slaughter the bull and the blood would go down, and the people would be touched by that blood, and that was for them a salvation. So I can imagine that thinking of the bull being slaughtered is a good answer to the drive of the bull before, that sense that this is being offered, it's done for other people, my life is going away, I don't expect a reward, I'm not holding out my hand. Hey, you owe me, all these things I think would be an important thing.
The sacrifice.
Yeah. So what do you think when you hear that?
It feels like the purpose of my life, to give of myself so that others benefit. It's like being the mulch in the ground for the flowers to grow, just to keep being that which nourishes others.
So let me imagine a situation in which I, a Taurian, am counseling somebody. We're involved in this spiritual direction stuff, and that stupid fool doesn't want to do what I tell him to do. Right? How am I going to get him to budge? So I think we have touched on the temptation for the Taurian in that setting. Okay. And to figure that the salvation is going to be coming for that person being touched by the blood of the bull, saying, I don't have to do more. That's a process, going to take a while. It's not going to go the way in which I'm planning. Yeah. Maybe it'll help.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Toreador, Toreador. Should I have 2 chairs for Gemini? All right.
All right, you can go this way in life, and it's beautiful, and you can go this way in life, and it's beautiful. But how do you get or find or get the benefits of constancy and stamina, fidelity?
I'm of 2 minds.
And I'm fine with that.
In every one of those things, there is both virtue and vice, There's so much virtue in having someone being deliberate, looking at both sides of a situation, and having this kind of awareness, and the problem is, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? And until we can make up your mind, it's so hard to do. So how do you think that would show itself, this Gemini mind, in counseling, in spiritual direction?
Well, we talked about that in our group. Coming up with questions wasn't really the problem. We were fine with not having to have answers, because the questions were intriguing and they could go any way, and you wouldn't have to commit to an answer. So and that we thought was a blessing of us. But we also thought that we were mercurial and that we would move on to the next challenge, and had concerns about, it's mercury. It's a metal that floats on water. I mean, we're being solid, but we can float around and float away, and that sort of staying putness, and it was something like, not necessarily, I don't want to say a missing piece, but it was something I think that we thought would be an adjunct that each of us in our group thought, that's something I flit away, like a mayfly on the water a little bit too often maybe, and that might get in the way of doing good work.
Imagine someone comes to you, by the time they present the problem, they have become so fastened on the problem. This is the only problem. If that problem was solved, my life would be perfect, right? And they come to you with that thing. And since there's not a vacuum, there's a relationship as you interact with each other, you bring to bear that there are other sides to be looked at, there are other sides to be looked at, other sides to be looked at. What makes you worry is, but I can't give him a decision. And that's none of your business, right? To be able to say to that person, now that we have looked at these things, where are you with your insight about that, right? So they make the decision. I think that would help a lot in knowing that I am an enabler of looking at different points of view. So what do you think about what I just said?
I think that resonates a lot. I mean, and I think that's exactly one of the things we talked about as being our gifts. And that to keep doing, I guess, that's the thing to be constant with, I guess, is to, is the possibilities. That was another word that came up a lot.
I don't have a twin song. Anybody has one?
One is the loneliest number. Okay, maybe not.
Go ahead, sing it.
One is the loneliest number. One is the loneliest number. One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
Thank you.
She's a public defender for me.
Pardon?
She's a public defender for me.
I see. It's wonderful. So the judge and the jury need to do that. Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, the cancers came up with a question wanting to find clarity as to what was really about our heart's longing. What was it really about? And wanting to understand that so that we could act.
Cancer, yes? That's the group. Would you please repeat it? I'm sorry, I wasn't quite here yet when you said it, please.
Okay. If I can remember it.
Yeah.
It has to do with the yearning and the longing in our hearts. And the simple answer is like, well, it has to do with connection to God. But it doesn't really pop up on the screen like that. And what do we do? And so there's the question is wanting to have more clarity and understanding as to what this is about that's moving inside of us, and what would be a course of effective action for us to take.
I wish I had a good melody for you that you would know, but the one that comes up for me right now is from our tradition, goes something like this. Ke yail taro kalafike mayim Ke nafshi taro kelecha Elohim Tzama nafshi lelohim el chai Matai avo ve'era'eh Pnei Elohim Matai avo ve'era'eh Pnei Elohim. Like a deer panting for the water, so my soul longs for God. When, oh when, will I be able to come and see the face of my God? You know? So you see that this melody carries that kind of longing, and the words carry that kind of longing. And you know, most people think that longing is an absence. Can you imagine if you can go to the presence for the beloved that's in the longing? Huh? It's right there in that longing. When that longing is strong, nothing else is as important as the object of my love, the being that I'm longing for. So many of the Hasidic melodies are those longing melodies. And it's not because it says that it isn't good where I am. It says the longing is wonderful. When I think of Rabia up on the tower in Damascus at night, you know, where she is so overwhelmed by her longing, and that is such a presence to her. That's so wonderful. So I want to say that if one can get a person, this has to do with the encounters in spiritual direction, to be able to ask a person, talk to me about your longing. You know? Well, what's going on in you when you hear that?
Oh, well,
Me too.
what I thought of as you were speaking was that the longing, the longing that moves inside me, it feels wonderful.
You know, if we can have such longings, we are lucky. People have longings for money, for fame, for stuff like that. We've got such a good, sweet longing. All right, thank you. All right, for longing, we got to have a song. You can come sit here. Anyway, I don't know whether it goes even with words. It's Schubert's Serenade. You know that one. Oh, even better, Schubert's Ave Maria. That's just wonderful, okay? Da, 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 da. La 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 da 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 da. Now the next note has it. Da 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 da. Na ra ra, na ra 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 ra. I'll leave it right here. Let's sit with that a little bit before we start. Amen. So let me now introduce to you the representative of Leo.
We are a small but mighty group. Well, our question was our experience of ourselves as having so much passion and big energy and a lot of heat. And, kind of either that is kind of an overwhelming thing for people, or we work really hard to hold it, which is also very overwhelming to people. And so it was about how do we show up authentically without overrunning the guidance process.
I don't have an answer for it because I'm a Leo myself. But there is an element of the lioness, She is the one who's doing the hunting. She is also the one who protects her cubs. And I think this quality, this feminine quality of Leo doesn't get often talked about, but I think it's there too, There's the big heart. If I were to say what troubles a Leo sometimes, a man, that he doesn't have breasts to feed with, breasts to feed with, Freud was saying that women have penis envy. I think that some men have breast envy, when you are in a place and you watch someone feeding a baby and so on and so forth, and the sense of, I'm giving from my substance, that kind of giving, And that's there in the Leo. The Leo really wants to give, he's generous and so on. So I would want to say if we could feminize Leoness a little bit, I think that would be helpful. What do you think?
I think that there's a sense of, when I think of the feminine, of the mother creator, that there's almost a sense that that is so powerful. There's a fear that, the flip side of the creator is the destructor.
Mm-hmm.
And so even when we tap into the creative energy and that uplifting, it's so, there's a little bit of fear about the strength of that gift.
Folks, do you remember when transactional analysis was a big deal? Yeah? So you were talking about P, A, and C. You could be in the parent place, in the adult place, and in the child place. One of the great transactional analysis teachers was telling me one day, because of this Leo thing, we rush to help, and because we are sometimes clumsy about it, we are being seen as an aggressor. Mm-hmm. And people turn around to us and say, hey, come, and we feel like the victim. Mm-hmm. So by bringing to my mind, watch out each time that process, don't get caught in the triangle. Mm-hmm. there is an element of helping where the room is being made, the seeing. Have I really been invited? If there's one thing that I'd like, to remember for myself is, have I been invited there? What does this bring to you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, because in our group, we just immediately started attacking, what's our question? And then we realized after we got the question, it's like, well, who are you? And where do you live? Oh, and what do you do? Like we were doing the job, and then, oh yeah, we are humans, and we can have a connection, and we can invite one another and feel the space. So I guess and we talked about that was something we all kind of experienced.
Yeah.
That we were so busy, we jump right in without even thinking whether we're asked.
So what's a Leo song? Huh?
Lion King.
I was thinking of Born Free. Go ahead, do it. Okay. So this is a tune that is looking for its tail, huh? All right. Okay. So Virgo.
So we started, the Virgo started by creating a womb. That wasn't what we were thinking, but we went first to silence and then asked if we might be given a question that might serve the group. And the essence that seemed to come was about essence. It was that there's a wonderful paradox in the teachings we're given, a beautiful, complex map of everything that's going on in spiritual direction. And then we start with you today with, "'Tis a gift to be simple." And so there's a question in our Virgo group that likes to get things
focused on.
What's the heart? What's that pearl? What's that in utter simplicity in all your years, as if you could do one, is there in this guidance process and the discernment process, the centermost simplicity?
Would you want to give that up? That, when you're looking for that, if you had it, what would you do? It don't make sense. Or do it?
I don't know, I'd have to sit with it.
Okay.
To sit.
One of the things that goes with the saying, two-word, the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the spirit of guidance. You have a sense it says two-word that, but doesn't say into that. You know what I'm saying? There's a place that we want to be in tension with that. We meanwhile live in a world of multiplicity. I was saying yesterday this business of uni and verse. You know, one polarity is to the uni, the other one is to the verse. To want to give up that strivingness for, I think in Buddhism they talk about it as vajra, you know, that sharp, directed sword thing there. I don't think it would be good to give that up. Just to make room that this is a process and not a product, I think is going to be very important. You know, you're going to stay with that all the time anyway, striving for it. Okay, that's why I asked when you had it, would you want to give it up? So what do you think about all this? Now you can think a little bit if you want to.
Well, it was noted in our group that wasn't this so very Virgo to get this and get the characteristics and the traits. But yes, I think that the place where we can really be of service is the spaciousness of the mother. It's the spaciousness of the. It's not necessarily that part of the Virgo, but the part of Virgo that can hold, can sit with, and allow the process. I mean, birth is a process, so, and that feels right to me.
There was a linguist, for you, but for them too. Yeah, so there was a linguist at Yale. His name escapes me at this moment. And he wanted to study Bible. So he went and learned Hebrew. He was an insurance salesman in order to be able to get deeper into Bible. And that meant that he wanted to understand not only the words, but how is the mind that speaks that language built. And he compared it with other languages, with other dialects, and so on and so forth. He came across something about an Indian language, an American Indian language, that has two tenses. One tense he dubbed the durative, and the other one he dubbed the punctive. And that's been staying with me. Benjamin Lee Whorf was his name, yes. And it got to me that the masculine mind is punctive. And there is something about the durative of that, you know? Knowing that gestation will take 9 months and nurturance will take time and all that. It's just so much more in the flow of things. People call that in language of grammar, imperfect. It's a stupid word, you know? It's a stupid word because for us, it starts in the Latin perfectum, it's done, you know? Imperfectum, it isn't finished yet, you know? But if you say durative, you know, it has a different flavor.
Duration.
Right? And you figure that how much time have you assigned to it? You know, most of the time we hear you assign money to it, you assign this and that and that. How much time will this development take? I think that's an issue. And in counseling, if I come to you with a sharp issue, I'll never amount to anything in the sight of God. Look, I've tried so hard, da 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 da. What are you going to tell me about durative?
We're going to sit with it. That's where I always go.
See. This is where the punctive Leo is saying,
There's no answer.
saying to quick, make with it. Go ahead. You got time.
So what? You want me to say something?
Yeah, I'm in. I want. What can you tell me in my condition of soul? I've tried so hard and so on, so forth, and it doesn't get me anywhere.
Where is it you're trying to get, do you think? What does that feel like in you? You wanting to get somewhere? Tell me.
Well, I want to get to the place where I won't lie to myself. I want to get to the place where I will be closer to God, and everything that I try doesn't get me there. And I want it to get me there right away. And if it doesn't work, then why bother coming to spiritual direction?
So you get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
So what moves in me when I hear that is a question that I say back to you when you say, what I want is not to lie to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true, what you just said? I
And
really
so-
want to know if
yeah.
if that's really true.
At this moment it is, yes.
So can we feel into that? What does that moment feel like? Because what you're longing for is to tell yourself the truth. And not only did you just tell yourself the truth, but me the truth. And so I want to sit with that for a minute.
Yeah. Thank you.